The Book of Kha Two, Visitations. Boy, a hand shook me awake. I came awake slowly, as if reluctant to let go of the dream I could not remember. The old man was standing over me, Usher, the guide. I remembered. "It is time," he said, and moved toward a passageway back into the heart of the temple. Wiping my eyes, I slowly followed the gray-robed old man. I didn't remember much about the world or my life before the desert, but I knew the old man had been lying about his age. No one lived that long. It did not take me very long to catch up with his weary steps. "We will attempt to meditate and see if the Kha itself will give you your name." "Why would you think it would?" I asked, not understanding why he thought the structure would give me a name. Or this Kha. "The Kha drew you here. It has a purpose for you." He grunted as we entered a room without any other entrance. It was about the size of the yurt I'd first met him in. "Perhaps you were only just meant to take over for me. My footsteps grow weary." My breath caught when we entered the room. It was lit with natural light filtered down from the mountain sky. The pulses signifying the solar flares were not in evidence, though. I did not understand how that was possible. The etchings on these tiles in this room were etched in silver and gold, not just carved. It looked as if the language were inlaid with gold and silver into the stone. "Sit in the center of the room." The old man was waving his hand. "Get comfortable." I sat, my legs folded Indian style, and watched the old man gingerly do the same. "Now, close your eyes, boy," he told me, and I did so, not really understanding what he wanted. The air was cool in the room, and still, yet almost alive. My arms prickled with goosebumps at the sensation. The old man spoke. "Now, boy, let go. There is no world, no reality. All is emptiness." I let myself fade, everything gone, my consciousness only blankness. Yet it wasn't empty. There was something. You will feel the call there, where nothing else exists. It was there before and it will be there after. It was the energy of creation, the power that holds chaos at bay. And in so doing, it forms life. What was it there in the darkness? This Kha. Let it fill you, child, and tell me your name. My name was no sound, but a bright, hot fire that enclosed me. A fire of war and peace, chaos and order, light and dark. It was all things and none. "Speak it," the old man demanded. "Khan," my voice spoke involuntarily. "Adi Khan." The darkness swallowed me as the Kha let go of me, and I heard in my delirium the old man whisper, "First man of Kha." When I woke, I was back in my pallet. I just lay there trying to remember the exhilaration of touching this force, this Kha, of it giving me my name. "Ah, you're awake." The old man's voice sounded subdued and worried. I sat up slowly. The world was different. The temple was different, more real, and not a temple at all, but a school, a center of learning. The subject taught here was a subject long forgotten by human. The Kha. "How do you feel?" Usher asked. "Different," I admitted. Khan is a name remembered as a conqueror, a warlord, a destructive force that ravaged the ancient world. he noted. Genghis Khan, I said, the memory coming from nowhere. The old man nodded. A tyrant for some, if my history is correct, but the founder of a great nation. Not the same, I said, and I don't know why. The old man shook his head. It doesn't matter. I am sure there aren't many who even remember him, though I cannot think it is a coincidence that he was named so, that millions of people had genes that came from his lineage. What now? I asked, when the old man went silent. You learn. He seemed almost lost. I will teach you everything I know, everything I have material on. We will start with philosophy and history before I teach you the Babel language. Philosophy? I asked. Usher motioned at the table where many books lay, some open. I have all these books and commentaries on philosophy and history. He picked up a hardbound tome and studied it. Aristotle, Plato, Sun Tzu, Miyamati, Musashi, Nietzsche, and others. Who are you? I asked. I could ask you the very same question, Adi. Or should I just call you Khan? I shrugged. It feels right, either way. Like it was always my name, I just didn't know. He grunted. And so began my studies and thought. Yet something told me I needed more. I needed to learn about the Kha itself. Though my days were filled with study, dry and boring study. What is the point of it all? I asked on a day months into what the old man called graduate work, whatever that meant. I, as always, kept myself silent and calm and just did the assignments he gave me. I read the day away, and in the evenings we would discuss what I'd read. It doesn't make sense, I told him at one point. What doesn't make sense? He asked, bemused with my frustration. Nihilism, I told him, referring to one old battered book. There are always those who think their own morals are superior to that any religion could offer, he told me. But if there's nothing after life, if death is just oblivion, then what's the point? I argued. Why exist at all? Explain, the old man said. I grasped at the idea I had forming in my head, understanding that my thoughts were basic and simple in comparison to the texts I'd been reading. Evolution doesn't make any sense to me. Why are we, of all creatures on the planet, the only ones self-aware? I mean, shouldn't there be dog people or cow people or something? The old man chuckled. That is very simplistic. He nodded towards another book. What if God, or whatever that is, created us using evolution? I snorted in disgust. What are you trying to convince me of? He sighed. The point of all this is not to convince you of anything. Philosophy is there to teach your mind to think for itself, to ask questions, to search. It went on like that day after day, until the overwhelming need to once again touch the Kha took hold of me. When will I learn more about the Kha? I demanded. I heard the old man sigh. When I return, I suppose, he told me. And keep in mind, I can only tell you the stories left here in this temple. Return from where? I asked, wondering why he would have to leave. The village, he explained. You have been here for months, and our food stores are low. I must go to the village and trade time and work for supplies. I can help. I started moving toward my meager possessions to pack for the trip. But the old man was shaking his head. Better if none remember you. What do you mean? I asked, unsure how I could learn about the world without being part of it. I mean that you are vulnerable, and I cannot protect you from... He trailed off. From what? I asked. There are more people in the world than just those you've seen in the village, and many of them now are tyrants, despots, warlords, and criminals. The remnants of power are used to subjugate all those who are weaker. He explained, though not unkindly. I sat down at the table. I suppose I'm just to read all this without you and take notes? I noted at the books with derision. No. He sat down and looked at me in the eyes. Read these journals, he told me, tapping a stack of handwritten notebooks. They are labeled in order, and you will have the foundation to begin, I suppose. Usher, I asked. You don't sound sure. He shook his head. The problem is balance, Khan. It is a universal truth, one that is reiterated in the texts of the temple as well as many of these treatises on philosophy and history. He waved at the table. I don't understand, I told him. You are named first man of Kha. Then what is out there to balance that? A descendant of the Nephilim, who will be the first of the Ra? He growled. You aren't ready to confront anything like that. Again, I didn't understand. But if there's another like me, wouldn't he be as ignorant as me? The old man corrected absently. Wouldn't he be as ignorant as I? It was my turn to grunt in acknowledgement. There wasn't much use talking to him when he was being obstinate. I will wait and read, I suppose. I will leave at sunset, he told me. There is enough dried grain and dried meat for you to survive for a few weeks. I will be back with a pack mule before then, I hope. He left that night, and I read. For 3 days I did nothing but read. I read of the fall of man, the flood, the evils of the Ra, how the Kha was a force of creation, but the Ra turned it to destruction and chaos. Like they were separate, but not. It was all so boring. And then the pull. It woke me in the middle of the night. It began its familiar, incessant tug on my heart. Confusion clouded my brain. I was already at the temple. Where did it wish me to go now? And without Usher? I wandered into the meditation chamber, a room I've not gone into since my naming. I sat as before, closed my eyes, and let go of all sense of self, all sense of time and space, just me in the darkness. Come. The feeling seemed to say, not in words, but a spiritual voice, one outside as well as within the darkness. I stood, my eyes remaining closed, desperately holding on to the darkness, giving myself over. I moved. My hand lifted of its own volition, and I touched a stone. And I felt the gold inlay of the sigil that was there, and could almost see in the darkness behind my closed eyes. When I opened them, I saw that the wall had melted away. I hadn't even heard anything. It just wasn't there. The pull was strong now, guiding me down this hidden dark corridor, deep into the mountain. I was drawn down into the darkness, as if searching for a light. There were no doors to the sides nor corners to traverse, just one straight corridor leading steadily down into the depths of the mountain of stone. How long I walked, I could not tell, floating in that darkness, my feet moving of their own volition. I just knew that something wanted me to keep going, to come to it. When finally I discovered a great door. It was made of the same stone of the rest of the structure, yet it only held one large symbol. Angel wings, at least they appeared so, and they glowed bright, as if the gold were lit from behind in the sigil itself. Without thinking, I touched it. Perhaps it was my imagination, perhaps just too much for my mind to handle, but I found myself in another room, as large as the hall, a room that was not empty. Upon a steel pedestal sat a large crystal of clear quartz. At least it looked like quartz, and surrounding it were others glowing softly. Water fell from the crystal, as if cooling it. You have finally come. The voice wasn't without, but within. I didn't hear it so much as the words were placed inside my mind, and the voice was distinctly female. What are you? I asked. Memories, instructions, personality of those long past, the crystal informed me. Whose? I asked. The architects of this place. The answer came. No, we are not speaking English, though your mind interprets it as such, the voice said before I could ask that next question. Like a computer, I thought, though only just remembered what a computer was, even though I could not bring what one looked like to my mind. It was empty but for the information Usher gave me. The guide has not found this place, though he touches the Kha unknowingly, the voice informed. Yes, indeed. Think of my memory as a memory stone, a computer of knowledge, if you will. Are you reading my mind? I asked. We are communicating thus, the voice answered, actual amusement in it. Are you of the Kha or the Ra? I asked, not really understanding any of it. Kha or Ra matters not. They are the same, even though they are different. It is intent that matters. It is the same power, the same force, just different signs, given by the Creator, some gifted with talent in its use and others only able to touch, the voice informed. Usher uses the Kha? I asked. All unknowingly, the voice had a tone of amusement again. The architects have provided for the guide. Even as this place was built for your coming, the Kha has extended his life, held his body in health so that he could lead you here. Provided for him how? He is under a misconception of time. He has lived almost 200 years, though he knows it not, waiting for you to come, so that he could guide you to this point, so that you could learn the way of Kha and bring back a light to the world. Me? I asked, a heavy weight seeming to press down upon my shoulders. I barely know anything. That is my purpose, to bring your instruction in the Kha, as the guide's purpose is to teach you of men and their philosophies and the word of the Creator. Though those stories, as you know them, have been stripped of their context and detail over the long eons, at their heart, the teaching of truth remains. Stories like Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel, I asked. Adam, the first man. though he was not truly the first, just the first in the line that would bring Messiah. There are far more to this tale than was kept, the old oral tradition losing the unnecessary portions over time before they were chronicled by those our culture left behind. I stood silent and thinking. I was lost without Usher and disturbed without knowing why, that I had become so dependent upon his insight. You are not the child as you appear. You have been waiting in spirit for eons, since the great cataclysm reft the ability to touch the call from our people, the voice informed me. So where do I start? I asked. Sit and do as in the room of silence, and let yourself float in the darkness. You cannot take the call. You must release yourself to it, the voice informed me. Are there others? Other stones? I asked. In the other temples, 7 were constructed, or to be constructed, each to teach a different aspect of the Kha. If the Ra and the Kha are the same, how do I... My words trailed off because I didn't know how exactly to phrase my question. The Kha is light. It moves through you, connecting everything to everything else. Not just the physical, but the spiritual. Stand close to the light, and a cast shadow becomes apparent. That shadow is the Ra. In the darkness, the absence of the light, it is a balance. So there will be another. Even as I am Khan, there will be what? A Ran? I asked. Ra, the voice stated. Sit and begin to touch the Kha, even as you so have before. I sat in the middle of the temple, created before Noah's flood, eons ago. 15,000 years, the voice agreed. I shook my head. Wait, I thought Usher said the Bible put the world at like 6,000 years. Details were stripped away from those stories. That history. Time is warped, and the earth was billions of years in the making for a purpose. What is that purpose? I asked. The purpose of the world, of humanity, has been unknown to all but the Creator. Though there is one, a goal that sentient life is working toward. I know only one purpose, yours, and an extension mine. And what is that purpose? I asked, trying to get clarification. You will protect the innocent. You will bring sanity back to a race that threw it away. I grimaced. They didn't throw it away. The flares, they destroyed their society, their technologies. The people of the world threw their sanity away long before the flares. The flares gave them back the ability to touch the Kha. Yes, they took from you your machines and computers and plastics. Yet all is in balance, and the Kha has been returned to the race of man. You will found an order to guide the rest of your kind. You will seek out others, and they will seek you. You will teach everything you learn, she spoke. I closed my eyes after a moment and let go. In the darkness you will see other things, places, moments in time, unknown and unknowable. All is connected to the Kha. From the stone you sit upon to the stars in the sky. She spoke. The darkness retreated, and suddenly I was standing upon the pass, looking down upon the little village, and it was burning. I rushed forward, my insubstantial being driving toward the village with need Need to find my friend, Usher, my guide. You'll tell me where the boy is, a harsh voice spoke. Where's this temple? Usher was on his knees. The old man had been beaten, face bleeding and pain written into his craggy face, his beard red with his own blood, surrounded by armored men with blades and bow. Rage threatened to envelop me and cast the Kha away. They would hurt him for me. I reached out for something to stop those men from hurting those who would shelter me. That is not the way, the voice spoke. I have to do something, I told her, anger and rage enveloping me. This rage is not the way. Reaching out, I tried to touch the man who spoke, his large frame casting a shadow upon those around him. That is not the way, the voice noted again. Then what is the way? I demanded. How do I help him? I will show you, she said. And I felt a push, a guiding, myself going into the old man, into Usher himself. I felt his pain, his worry, his hopelessness. He was going to die, and he knew it. But I was him, and he was me. And just who wants to know? I found myself demanding through Usher's mouth of the dark-haired brute. The Lord Corbin Raw, old man. Now tell us, and I promise your death will be clean and quick. His men laughed around him, from behind me, and all around. I knew not how many there were. I shook Usher's head. Go, leave this place, and leave it in peace. The man turned to his men and laughed. The old bastard thinks he'll just let it all go. Lord Raw would not be happy. No, I ask only that you leave this place and search for the boy no more, I told him, holding desperately to the calm the voice told me that I needed. That's not going to happen. The man spoke just before his boot hit me in the face. After a moment, men from behind me lifted me back to my knees. I knew even as they lifted me that violence was the only appropriate when violence was visited upon one, and that necessity demanded I take action. There would be a price. Violence always had a price, yet for Usher, the only friend I knew, I would pay that price. I stood slowly, Usher's pain receding into the background. Leave, or your death will come to you, I spoke with calm resignation. Rage contorted the dark man's face, and his fist roared in, but it was slow, as if time were slowed, and I watched it come. Without thought, Usher's hand reached out and grabbed his fist, halting its momentum. Then I spoke a single word, the call filling my voice and expressing itself. Burn! It was not a scream, but a word, spoken with regret. He stumbled back, horror etching his face. Smoke began billowing from under the man's steel and lacquered armor. Slowly it came over him. The flames finally leapt, and I held my will upon him, held the Kha I'd called to my purpose. As he fell, his men around me began screaming, In fire you come, now in fire you fall. The voice was mine, not Usher's. All of them died, every single one, in the most brutal way possible. The price was my own horror, that I could take life so easily, so finally, so destructively. I woke once again in the little room with the crystal. They feel your presence upon the world, Khan, and the users of the Ra will come for you. My head was pounding with pain and fire like the fire I visited upon mankind. I couldn't think. I could barely breathe. The price of violence is always pain. Always. It has been thus. The voice told me just before the darkness of unconsciousness took me away.